Here are 7 art tutorials that actually help my art in more ways than one, with the last being my absolute favorite. Okay, let's go. Ever wonder why your lighting sometimes just lacks the punch that all the professionals seem to have? Well, this is the bit that will help answer that. In short, just like how you can have static and dynamic poses, the same concept can be applied to lighting as well. I think a lot of the time we get too caught up in trying to make things adhere to reality that we forget that, at the end of the day, art is all about exaggeration. I mean, sure, the extent of which is entirely up to the artist, but the rule of cool is a thing for a reason. This was the vid that gave me that push I needed to be really wild and experimental with my lighting. And sure, I may have went a little bit overboard, because I have a bad habit of flooding my scene with too much blue a lot of the time. But honestly, ever since, my rendering has just looked so much better, and this vid has really played a big role in shaping how I view the overall process in general. It's not gonna immediately change the way your color looks, obviously. It's more like a little reminder or a lesson in how to set up aesthetically pleasing lighting conditions for your drawings. Combining that with sufficient technical understanding of contrast and color variety, and you can make your drawing really pop. It's well worth a watch, and this channel is honestly an amazing resource for all things related to color and light. Now, okay, I will say that this is a very long and heavy video to go through, so maybe set aside an evening or like prepare a really big dinner. The title, however, is not a lie. I genuinely do think this is everything you need to know about perspective on a raw technical level. And while the bits about the math and the measuring thing seems a little bit impractical for the purpose of just making a really cool drawing, it still has a ton of really eye-opening bits. Like how linear perspective, you know, the 1, 2, 3 vanishing point system, is actually just a big simplification. Fisheye perspective is how we humans actually view the world. And also, just because the scene is in one point perspective doesn't mean that there's only one direction that an object can go towards. In truth, there's actually an infinite number of vanishing points corresponding to a theoretically infinite amount of objects that can exist in a scene. I mean, just look at any photo, right? Like any photo at all. And you'll see that there is definitely more than just 1 to 3 vanishing points. That's because literally every object, big or small, has their own sets of vanishing point, and if you try to assign exactly 3 points for every single object in the scene, then it will actually just makes it look really stiff and kind of fake. So linear perspective is actually just a simplification and a good enough basic guideline for you to get the hang of things before moving on, and this bit goes much more in depth into the why and how of it. It's honestly one of the best video I've seen on the topic. Everyone is obsessing over the fundamentals, but you're all sleeping on the most important rule in art and life, actually, and that is you can't draw if you're dead. So don't be stupid, and make sure you're stretching regularly and treating your body properly, okay? The solitary lifestyle is gonna kill us all, bro, for real. We all spend so much time sitting on our chairs, and art is definitely not a hobby that's helping that. So if you're planning on doing this long term, I highly recommend that you keep your health in mind. Probably the biggest takeaway that I got from the vid is that I now have a standing desk because I don't want to die yet. I still have drawings to make. The second is, it also made me ditch my old Huron 13 drawing tablet too, because I realized that, yeah, maybe spending like 2 to 3, sometimes even more hours staring down this tiny LCD screen is gonna give future me a real problem. It's not gonna directly improve your art on a fundamental level, but it will help improve your ability to make art in general, and honestly any other hobbies you might be undertaking. Overall, it's just a solid list of good advice and a reminder that your health is not a resource you can just mess with. If you've ever tried gesture drawing, you probably have had many attempts where the figure just comes out looking so stiff and rigid. You know, there's no sense of flow or movement in it, even though you've tried your best to be loose and set up your line of actions and yada yada, the end result is still so lifeless. Similarly, if you ever tried to trace a drawing directly, 9 times out of 10 it'll end up looking super wobbly and just off. This video explains why that might be the case. When you're too focused on what you're directly looking at, it's really easy to end up getting tunnel vision and just essentially trying to trace the reference in your head. And, you know, when you're tracing, you're not really considering how the shapes and forms in your drawings are actually existing in the canvas. And that is what's going to make the end result look fat and stiff and just really weak in general. This video is a reminder that just blindly following your reference can do a lot more harm than good, and overall it's a very eye-opening video. While theory and raw knowledge are all very important, there's also a ton of value in seeing how professional artists utilize their understanding of the fundamentals. This isn't a speed paint where you get to see 100% of their decision. I actually would have loved that. It's still really packed with a lot of really cool bits. The coloring with the hue slider was such a game changer for me the first time I saw it. The simple and quick explanation about the blending mode is really good, even though, 99% of us is probably just gonna stick to multiply, overlay, and go dodge. Their justification for not following along with these color theory shenanigans was a big eye-opener for me, and it's a philosophy that I still follow nowadays. I just find pleasing palette either by experimenting or by observing good art, and uses that as my guideline instead of these kind of weird and honestly way too simplified rule set. Colors, in my opinion, is easily the most subjective and expressive part in art, and it rubs me the wrong way seeing it being confined and boxed in like this. And lastly, more reminders about the importance of good value is always appreciated, and seeing her correcting all of the drawing you've seen in the vid really helped to drive that point home. It's just an all-around great vid about the rendering process and was a major help for me when I was learning how to color my backgrounds. If you're struggling to apply your understanding of perspective and design into an actual drawing, this is a great vid for you. Instead of just being an info dump, it actually gives you a very good blueprint to follow along. It also has a lot of really cool wisdom nuggets, like this technique used by concept artist Feng Zhu, where you just take a pre-existing image to use as a base to expand upon. Not only is it totally different from tracing, which itself is a weird topic that honestly deserves its own video, but it's also just super fun, and it's a great way to ease yourself into the whole subject, as trying to come up with a whole scene on your own can be a daunting task, especially if you're new to this. I personally drew over a bunch of photos when I was learning perspective, just as a way to get myself comfortable with, well, basically everything. And his little bit about copying professional artists' shape language and line work is also a great little lesson, because just learning from what has been proven to work is just a really efficient use of your time and energy. Reference can be used in more ways than just to look up how an object is supposed to look, Tutorials that actually walk you through the steps of making a finished drawing are always nice, and this is a very good one in my opinion. Now, really, this entire video could just be me shilling for Marco, but I don't think he needs it, and that would make for a pretty boring video in general. But anyway, have you ever wondered why so many tutorials on rendering uses a bowl or a cube as the subject matter? It's because really, no matter what you're coloring, the steps never change, and if you can render like a bowl properly, you now have the prerequisite knowledge to render, well, basically anything on paper. Now, he's not gonna immediately make your rendering go from 0 to 100. I mean, that would be actually really cool, but no, we don't live in that world. Good lighting is less about colors and values, but more about having a good understanding of the form you're actually coloring, and that takes a lot of time to learn. There's no cheat for that. But this video will give you a very simple framework to work with, and Marco also provides you with all the necessary context to understand it, and later expand upon if you choose. My personal rendering method is just an expanded version of the one shown here, with a few extra modifications of my own to fit my personal aesthetics, of course. I'm not even kidding, okay? No joke. This video single-handedly taught me how to color my art. It is by far the best art tutorial I've ever seen on YouTube. Everyone should watch it at least once. And the first part too, that one is just as good.